Geek out!
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, Freddy's coming for you.
Another year has
5,
passed, and all is
6,
quiet in
Freddy's
Springwood,
coming for you.
or so it seems.
7,
Several troubled teams in a mental institution find that they have a common fear of a nightmarish boogeyman who haunts their dreams. Enter Nancy Thompson, Freddy Krueger survivor, who has become an expert on dream therapy. But does she have what it takes to save these kids? All right, welcome to another exciting episode of A Nightmare on Geek Out Street. I am your wonderful host, Mr. Christopher Nolan, and today with me I have friend of the show, Ken.
Oh, am I just a friend of the show?
Well, you used to be friend of the show and co-host of Laserdicks, but since that
But I'm your friend, too.
That's true. Friend of the show and friend of mine, Ken.
Hi. How's it going? Glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome back. This is it's been a couple months since you've been here with me. You were here with me for Jason X.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So
I watched it again. Joy, my sister, was like, "Hey, what was this movie that you saw? You seem to really like it." I'm like, "Oh, you haven't heard? You haven't heard about Jason X?
Oh, you don't know?" So when you were here for Jason X, we talked about Jason. Now we're talking about Freddy Krueger.
Ooh.
Tell me, what's your experience with Freddy Krueger? Is this the first Nightmares movie you've seen, or what?
This is the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie I've seen. Now, I have seen Freddy vs. Jason.
Mm-hmm. So you've been introduced to the character.
Yes, and especially through my sister. She actually has a costume for Freddy that she likes to wear. So, like, I'm aware of the character. I'm aware of the significance. Heck, I think my cousin used to have a VHS tape.
Ooh.
I think of the second one. I'd have to look at the covers of the VHS tapes.
Right.
But it always stuck out to me. It's like, man, he looks rather sickly. I wonder if he should get some help. But it always stuck out to me that the box itself looked creepy because obviously the VHS is going to show off the kills, show off some of the horror.
The cover art was really good on these movies.
Oh, exactly. So I always, would stay away from it, but I always would have to go to see it because my cousin also had a VHS tape from Nintendo Power detailing like Donkey Kong's production. So I was like, oh, I want to watch that. This, stay over there. I was like 8 at the time, so.
So I have introduced you to your first proper Nightmare on Elm Street movie, which, congratulations, because it is lauded as the best of the original series.
So I hear.
Yeah. Of course, since I believe I haven't mentioned which one it is, but you clicked on a link, so you probably know. But just in case you do not, we are talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Dream
We are the Dream Warriors.
I took this the wrong direction.
I mean, you're really close to the song.
I was channeling a Snake Eater. Snake Eater.
Oh, well. Yeah, the song that was written for the movie is "We Are the Dream Warriors."
That sounds like a very 90s thing to do.
It is a very 80s thing to do.
Oh, okay.
It's a heavy metal, an 80s heavy metal band.
Okay.
Dokken.
That's a name.
Yeah, not Wolverine's son or clone or whatever.
Oh, that's a deep cut. I didn't even know he had a son. He has a clone. I know X-23.
No. There's I don't even think it's pronounced Dokken. I think it's like Dakken, or it's like DA, whatever. I don't know.
Manga.
But it's he's a replacement Wolverine base. You saw the movie Wolverine, right?
I have not.
Oh, well then never mind.
I'm not the biggest X-Men fan.
That's
actually.
fine. That's fine.
That's a stance that I have.
that is the hill that you are going to die on.
Exactly.
I am not that big of an X-Men fan.
I will watch it if it comes up, but
it's a good one.
Okay.
But basically, from my understanding, one of the villains of the movie Wolverine is Dokken.
Okay.
The band.
He fights all of them. It's a big Mega Man fight.
Yeah.
One right after the other gets a power.
They got the hair. Because it's an 80s, it's like it's almost borderline glam metal, and it's wonderful.
Oh man,
yeah. Like if you've ever seen Def Leppard, that's kind of what they look like.
Okay, I have seen a little.
but with all of their arms. It's fine. I'm a drummer too. But so yeah, this is in my personal preference. This is the best one.
Okay.
Why? I'm not really. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it could be the one that uses like the most like trick psychology. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the first half of the movie, like, they do a quote unquote serious job trying to be like, no, these kids are all just troubled. Yeah. You know, it's psychosis or whatever. I'm not a psychologist. I can't use the words right. But you know, like, it's a medical issue, you know.
Right.
Whereas the other movies, they're just like, oh, you're just a kid, you know, you have bad dreams. And this one, it's like, you kids are crazy. And so, like, and they're trying to treat them and stuff like that, which is what it's, to me, that's how you know, people would react in the real world.
Yeah.
You know.
Hopefully they don't lock them up in like solitary though. Like, seriously, that was a dick move.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, most that shit has gotten better since then. And also, I mean, you know, movies are never going to get it right because they're going for style, flair. But yeah,
adults don't understand
exactly. But so in this movie, we were focusing on what's her name? Jennifer?
Yeah, Jennifer.
Patricia Arquette's character. The greatest Arquette, arguably. I mean, I'm a big fan of David Arquette. He's a WCW world champion. I bet you didn't know that.
I didn't know that there's any other Arquettes.
You don't know David Arquette?
I thought Freddy got them all.
No, those are the Rockettes. But no, David Arquette. You know David Arquette. He's Officer Dewey from the Scream movies.
No, I haven't seen Scream movies.
No? Have you seen Ready to Rumble?
No. I'm an uneducated Philistine.
Have you seen anything else that David Arquette's been in that I'm currently blanking on right now?
You should rephrase that. Have you seen anything else other than comic and cartoon related movies? No.
Yeah, I've seen this. So the Arquettes are like an acting family. Sort of. I think there's like 3 of them.
Okay.
There's Patricia, David, and then another one that I can never remember, and maybe there's more. Who knows? But like, David is the one that gets a lot of like dumb roles, but a lot of fun roles. He was married to Courtney Cox.
Another name.
She was one of the friends.
Oh, a friend.
Yeah. She was the dark-haired friend.
So she's one that didn't get a spin-off show.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my knowledge.
Now that we've spent all this time talking about the Arquettes, well, for you listening at home who do know the Arquettes, because they're pretty famous, Patricia Arquette is probably out of all the Arquettes, she's probably the best actor.
And that's saying something.
But the David is probably the biggest household name at this point, mostly because of the Scream movies. On to important things. So
I've got you off your game.
You did. I've already forgotten her name again. Heather?
I think Jennifer.
No, Jennifer's one of the girls that dies, isn't she?
You had
Jennifer is the actress girl.
Nancy.
Nancy is the girl from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1.
I thought that's who you were talking about.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the girl that was making the house.
Oh, that girl. The blonde girl.
The blonde girl that's not Jennifer.
Yes.
This is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street, guys, and I can't remember the actor or the character's name. Patricia Arquette.
You got the wrong co-host here.
Shit. So Patricia Arquette's character is can't sleep because, you know, nightmares. She's building a paper mache house that looks creepily like the house that Freddy built.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, whoever, I mean, I know it's supposed to be like a kid's making it, but, you know, whoever designed that prop was like,
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. Kids good at designing props. And then her mom runs in and is like, "Hey, go the fuck to sleep." So she goes to sleep.
She's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. Reads the whole book. So this is the worst episode ever. And so she goes the fuck to sleep. Has a Freddy Krueger dream at the house that she's building out of paper mache, with a really creepy child doll that she's carrying around.
Oh yeah, that was like the clips where it's obviously a doll. It's like, oh no, that child would not be okay.
Yeah, that child just got his head smacked into a wall.
Oh no.
But yeah, so then she wakes up terrified, goes to splash water on her face, and then the sink attacks her and slits her wrist. But then you cut to the real world, and she's holding a razor, and her mom's like, "God damn it! Now I gotta
crap again.
Now I gotta send you to a mental institution."
Because that's what you do when your kids are suicidal. I mean, get some help from a psychiatrist.
Yeah, she's being proactive. I mean, we also don't know. Like, she might have taken her to a doctor to get the wound taken care of, and then the doctor was like, "You gotta, send your kid to a psychologist." The psychologist was like, "You gotta send your kid to a mental institution." And who knows? This might just be how Springwood, Ohio, handles mental illness in the 80s.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You're suicidal, instantly sent to a mental institution. You know what? That's how they did it in like the 50s. So things have sort of changed.
Gradually progressed.
Yeah. So and then she's freaking out because she doesn't want to be sedated because she's not a fan of the Ramones.
Hey, I understood that reference. The one reference. That'll be it. That's my one.
All right. See you, Ken. Thanks for coming on the show. So, and then convenient enter Nancy, who knows the same nursery rhyme that I'm pretty sure it's Heather is saying. I'm gonna look it up before I embarrass myself.
Well, yeah, they know.
But
look it up while they know the nursery rhyme. Like, she's trying to fed off everybody with like this chair.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just one little nursery rhyme. Like, oh, I've heard that before. Maybe I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
So,
and then they hug it out.
That's always a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to every one of the kids that have quote unquote issues.
Kristen. I was you know what it was? Nancy is played by Heather Langenkamp. So many people have been yelling at me for the past 10 minutes from their car or wherever they're working out.
Eyes on the road.
Yeah. Patricia Arquette plays Kristen. So Kristen slits her wrist. Yeah. I do great research on this show.
Hey, you've got all these paragraphs here.
That's true. That's true. Right now, I'm shooting from the hip. I have a whole bunch of things written down that we're going to get into later.
You know what the issue was? That character didn't die. So
yeah, I have a list of all the characters who died. I don't have a list of the characters. Oh, actually, you know what? I do have a fucking list of the characters who lived. Fucking right there. Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey.
Well, I didn't see
Spoilers.
you type that.
Yeah, no, because I typed that last night. So we follow Kristen.
Professionalism.
Yeah. I've been doing podcasts for 3 years now. Most of the podcasts I do not do research for. These are the only ones that I take seriously, quote unquote.
You take your horror movie seriously.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, because I didn't want it to be just a retelling of the movie, even though that's what I'm in the thick of right now. We're introduced to several other teen characters at the Institute. The Weston Hills Asylum, which oddly enough also the same mental institution in Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh,
but it's renamed, or it has a different name or something like that.
Same set?
No.
Oh,
no, no. Just but like it is the mental institution in Springwood, Ohio.
I see. Okay.
So. We find out that all the troubled teens in there all have a similar, they've all dreamt of Freddy.
Pretty white kids with problems, and the one black guy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
typical.
That's exactly.
I mean, Springwood, Ohio. That's kind of what I would expect.
Yeah,
especially in the 80s. So, so there's the kid that makes puppets. who sleepwalks.
Mm-hmm.
Convenient for Freddy because then he just turns him into a puppet and walks him around the hospital, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's just him. He makes puppets.
He does that from
time
time to time."
Or I'm sorry, it's just him. He sleepwalks. Like, I was like, no, you should be making sure he's still in his bed.
Yeah,
like sleepwalking is a serious problem.
Yeah,
you people get into cars and drive while they're asleep.
Like, if you see him walking, like, okay, I get it. He's done that before, but turn him around.
Yeah. Also, it's safe to wake up someone who's sleepwalking. There's an urban legend that you don't wake up someone who's sleepwalking.
Mm-hmm.
It unfounded.
Mythbusters proved it wrong. I don't
think they did, but
they could.
I'm just saying. It's like the thing comes from, like, people are like, oh, don't wake up a sleepwalker, they'll attack you. It's like, only if they're having a bad dream.
Yeah. Well, he was having a bad dream.
Yeah, he was. But yeah, so Freddy walks him up to the top of a bell tower, and slits the cool tendons that he had turned into the puppet strings, and makes it look like he jumped off the thing. Which, unfortunately, because you are inexperienced with Freddy, gave you a misunderstanding of how Freddy's powers work.
Exactly, because especially like now that when you recap that first scene with our main character where she's going to slice Kristen, yeah. When Kristen's going to slice.
Sorry, I'm really proud that I found that out. So.
When Kristen's going to slice her wrist, so I thought, like, okay, so Freddy, the way that Freddy kills you is he gets your body to do things while you're having these nightmares. So,
and to be fair, that is a fair assessment based on the 2 kills that you've seen, or 2 things that you've seen so far.
Exactly, but then from that point on, like the one mute guy was in a coma.
Yeah.
But I guess he hadn't gotten killed yet, so I guess you thought you could tie those two. I don't know,
yeah.
Like that.
But
it
is not a necessity. It's just something that he does to have fun.
Okay. Because he's a jerk.
Yup. And also, another thing is, like, he's trying to spread fear. Because as you might remember from Freddy vs. Jason, he feeds on fear.
Then that suicide would have been a good way to do that.
Exactly. It's a fast way to spread, especially since Joey, the mute kid, ended up waking up all the other kids and watching him die. Those kids who already were suffering from fear, now it just doubled down.
It's like, this could affect me personally.
And then does another kid die before they do anything?
I think that's the last.
Oh yeah, no, Jennifer. The improbable suicide.
Oh my goodness. So the death is basically her head gets shoved into the television.
Yeah.
But my thing is, there's a couch right behind her, so she'd have to run over the couch and jump.
What if she just jumped off the couch?
That's too far away unless you're running.
Yeah.
You need to get a running start, and you need to jump. There's a little bit of height involved. Like, that's the only way you're going to break a glass of a TV and get up there. So I don't know how that could have looked like a suicide.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, then who are the suspects for having killed her?
Lawrence Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne, thank you very much. That's the only thing. Like, I imagine, like, one mental institution with kids, troubled kids, and we even saw in that scene that she, put out the cigarette on her hand. She probably has a history of it's not self-mutilation. That's a very
self-harm?
different thing. Yeah, but yeah, self-harm. That might be why she's in there. We've already seen that the caretakers at this institution are not the most concerned about the kids, so they probably were like, well, she obviously killed herself.
Yeah, I get you. But I guess that also adds to my theory that Freddy had to do something to you in the real life, because again, she died in the real world too.
Yeah. Again, it's not a necessity that he does that, but it does happen. Then from there, Nancy convinces the dude doctor to try prescribing Hypnosil to the kids, and which is a drug that stops you, inhibits your dreams, and we had a neat conversation about that because that reminded me of a study that I learned about a little while ago, a sleep study that if you years and years ago, decades probably at this point, they tried to do a study on sleep deprivation to see what it does to you, and the idea was that they were going to keep these people up for a week straight. And they had to stop the experiment after like 48 hours or something like that because everyone was going nuts. People were having like hallucinations and stuff like that. They were being very aggressive, generally unpleasant to be around. And they were like, okay, let's not do this. Obviously, sleep deprivation is a bad thing. People need to get their sleep. A couple years later, people tried to do a study about dream deprivation. So they're like, okay, we're going to let you sleep, but we're going to give you this drug that inhibits, REM sleep or whatever, much like what Hypnosil would probably do. And again, almost the same amount of time passes, and they're like, nope, we got to stop this test because these people are showing the same signs of, whatever. They're having the same reaction that these other people did when we stopped them from sleeping. So your dreams are what cause you to kind of like stay
rest.
Sane.
Rest.
Yeah, exactly. It's not sleep. It's not the act of sleeping that gives you rest. It's the act of dreaming that gives you rest.
So even if you don't realize that you're dreaming, you are in some aspect because otherwise you wouldn't wake up fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just a fun little anecdote. Has nothing to do with the movie. But
now you know that it couldn't happen for real.
There you go. Hypnosil is a hell of a drug. And Hypnosil also stays a reoccurring thing throughout the rest of the series. Hypnosil, of course, featured big in the movie Freddy vs. Jason.
Was this the first movie?
Yeah, this is the first movie it's introduced. Before then, it's stuff like no-dose and caffeine pills and coffee. And even Kristen at the beginning of the movie, she's mixing Coca-Cola with coffee beans.
Yeah.
Which a couple years ago, Coca-Cola actually put out their own version of like a half and half mix of Coke and coffee called Coke Black.
I'm gagging on the inside.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was not good. Then again, I don't like coffee, period. So mixing it with Coke did not help.
Hell no.
So after Nancy convinces the doctor to administer Hypnosil, they
hadn't yet.
They did a session. They had that awesome moment with the dream where Kristen gets eaten by the Freddy worm.
Yes,
which was one of the coolest out of a movie that has a whole lot of cool visuals. This was one of the coolest ones.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. The worm puppet alone.
Mm-hmm. But that was an exercise in pulling everyone into the dream world at once so they could all interact and discover their dream powers.
But so they have an unauthorized session to figure out or to show that Kristen can pull everyone into their dreams. And Joey walks off because they haven't figured out that they're dreaming yet. Mm. Joey walks off because he thinks he's going to get some from the cute nurse.
Mm.
Turns out that nurse is Freddy. And we were both saying, God, like she takes off her nurse's gown, and you get a booby scene, and we were both like, man, if only like it had cut back and it's like her body, but like Freddy's face.
Absolutely
perfect.
It's like a latex mask, right? I mean, you could pretty much put that on anybody.
Probably could. It'd be just as believable as the Freddy head coming out of the TV.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Which was like a dummy head and then vacuum formed, and then it cuts back, and it's Robert Englund wearing makeup, TV set makeup with antenna
Oh my god.
coming out of his head.
I've built my career off of looking real goofy, but it's threatening, so
Yeah. Yeah, so then they figure out while Joey is being terrorized by Nurse Freddy, the other kids are figuring out what their dream powers are.
mm-hmm.
Like the one nerd is a dungeon master,
a wizard.
who can walk because he was wheelchair ridden.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Walking was a big deal. It wasn't just like he can walk.
There's Taryn, who is a punk rocker in her dreams. Basically, she has
Listen.
switchblades and a mohawk.
Yeah.
Kincaid is super strong. He can bend a chair.
He's Mr. T. I mean, they change his outfit to pretty much look like Mr. T.
Except for the gold chains.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they realize, oh shit, Joey is dying. And then they all get woken up except Joey. Joey's stuck in a coma. And then from there, the Nancy and the man doctor get fired essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And Nancy's like, no, Freddy's gonna kill them. You gotta give them Hypnosil. And they're like, no, I'm not gonna give them experimental drugs.
What do you think this is? A place where doctors come and prescribe things?
So then later they formulate a plan. Nancy sneaks back in, talks Larry Fishburne into letting her hang out at like the common room to see the kids, and she gets the kids into the dream room, or whatever you want to call it, the circle room, where they have their circle of chairs. And meanwhile, the male doctor, I don't care that I don't remember his name.
He's unimportant.
He finds Donald, Nancy's father, and gets him to tell him where Freddy's bones are buried.
Why were they just randomly in a trunk in a car junkyard?
Because it was a really cool set piece, Ken.
It
looked
it
awesome.
was. It was. But if you had the bones of like a serial killer, like why? Like even then, didn't they retcon that for Freddy vs. Jason, where like they lit fire to his house?
Well, no. So in the series, they set fire to his house. He dies from the fire, and then earlier in this movie, in part 3, when the male doctor is seeing the nun, and she's explaining how Freddy Krueger came to be, because Freddy Krueger's mom got raped by 100 maniacs in that hospital, that same hospital, to give birth to Freddy. She explains that there was, the body was never found, and the only way to stop Freddy Krueger is to have him buried on hollowed ground.
Right.
Or hallowed ground. Sorry, not hollowed out. I mean, I guess if you're burying it, it does have to be hollow, a hole. But yeah, so it explains that the his body was never found, and then when Nancy and the doctor actually go to see Sheriff Thompson, and he explains that, or she's like, "What happened to the body?" And he explains, "Oh, we took the body and hid it." Doesn't explain why.
Oh.
Probably because, like, out of some like sick, sadistic, mob mentality, they were like, "Well, we don't want this guy to get any justice. We don't want him to be buried. We're just gonna, toss him in an unmarked grave." And for whatever reason, the trunk of a Cadillac was the perfect. They were like, "No one will ever find his body here."
We'll just remember that was the red one.
Yeah. They're lucky. They're lucky that they don't get rid of the cars.
They just, it's a good set piece. They just wanted a cool place to hang around and smoke cigars.
Yeah, I would. But yeah, so the good doctor and Sheriff Thompson go to the graveyard, or go to the junkyard, and find the body to bury it. After the doctor goes to a church and steals a crucifix and holy water,
which he puts in a liquor bottle, I think.
Yes, yeah, he takes Sheriff Thompson's liquor bottle, dumps out the liquor, and fills it with holy water. No better way. to transport holy water.
Hmm.
Also, fun fact, holy water has a minute amount of alcohol, like rubbing alcohol in it, mixed in, just because so many people put their hands in it. They wanted a way to sanitize the water so that germs aren't spread.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So next time some kid is like, "Oh, my hands burn when I go to church and touch the holy water," be like, "Yeah, it's because alcohol's in it,
Not because,
you're evil."
Because you're a little prick.
Yeah. I knew a lot of kids that would say that in high school and stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you're cool. You hate God, whatever. It's because of alcohol,
It's
not
cool
because
to
you're."
hate God.
Anyway, I was an altar boy. It's fine.
Oh, did they touch you?
No, they didn't. I really hate that joke.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
because I was an altar boy, and therefore everyone's like, "Oh, did you get touched?" I'm like, "No, not every priest is like that."
I know. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I just
You can call me Kenny. I hate it.
but Carlos calls you Kenny from the block all the time.
I know.
I know.
I hope he's not listening.
And I want to stab him every time he does it.
There's a short list of folks that can call me Kenny.
Yeah.
That was
people that can beat you up.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe I should amend that list.
It's a long list.
It's a long list. It's a select few folks from high school and grandparents.
Right.
After high school,
gotcha. So,
but that has nothing. That's neither here nor there.
So the doctor and Sheriff Thompson try to bury the remains of Freddy, while simultaneously the kids in the institution are going into their dreams trying to save Joey. Some cool cross-cutting action happens where first Freddy dispatches both Taryn and the nerd. I have his name. Hold on. Let me scroll.
You got his name.
And Taryn and Will. Taryn by injecting her arms full of blue heroin, shiny blue heroin.
Some sort of liquid.
Yeah. She was a heroin junkie back before going into the institution. Now she's clean, but he pumps her full of something. Could be Drano for all we know.
Yeah.
And then Will, he kills him with a wheelchair. Actually, no, that's not true. He stabs him.
Yeah,
in the
chest. Yeah.
but the monstrous wheelchair coming down the lane at him is a cool visual. Even after he's like, "Fireball!"
I cast magic missile. What are you casting magic on? There's nothing but darkness. I attack the darkness.
I miss playing D&D. And then right around that time, Freddy finds the other kids and kind of terrorizes them a bit. Shows that he has all the souls of the kids that he's killed in his chest, which is kind of creepy. But he's a creepy guy. And then gets distracted because he's like, "Oh, someone's disturbing my bones.
I better go turn into a claymation."
Yeah. Jason and the Argonauts away. So that's what he does. He possesses his bones.
Because that's the thing. They're his bones.
Yeah. The last movie he was able to possess a person. So if he can possess a person, he can possess his bones.
Makes you wonder why he hadn't done that before.
Because they hadn't
found his bones.
Yeah, maybe he was not able to find his bones until someone pulled him out of the Cadillac.
I was about to say because
the Cadillac, you ought to know by now.
I don't understand that reference.
It's a Billy Joel song.
Okay.
I don't even think it's a Cadillac. I know he says heart attack. No, yeah, he does say Cadillac. I don't know why he goes so much.
Everyone's got to have a gimmick.
He's like one of the Martians from Mars Attacks. I'm sorry, you were saying something.
I was just going to say that now I've completely forgotten.
Okay.
Well, no, he
can possess his bones?
Yeah, if he could possess his bones, then he could be the ultimate killer. Freak you out, you fall asleep, get dreaming, then he could kill you there. Yeah. Or he could just stab you with a knife with his bones.
Yeah. Or just sharpen one of his bones and stab you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we're treated to a really cool special effects scene with a claymation or stop motion animation. I don't know if he's actually made out of clay, but it's stop motion animation skeleton fighting both the sheriff and the doctor. I don't even know if, by the way, Sheriff Thompson's still a sheriff. He's still wearing his badge, but he's also drinking, which you're not supposed to do while you're on the clock, and you're not supposed to be in uniform if you're off the clock.
He does have that cruiser still.
Does he?
I think that's what they drove in. They drove in a cruiser.
That's fair. But yeah, so they fight. Sheriff dies by being impaled by a Cadillac wing, tail fin, whatever you call it. And then it starts to bury the doctor, and then gets distracted before he even has the doctor's face fully covered, and goes back into the dream world and terrifies the kids with mirrors.
You didn't finish the job.
Nope. Until Joey figures out what his dream power is, and that is the power to move you. He's able to yell. He's able to go, no! And break all the mirrors. And all the kids fly back in to, they were being sucked into the mirror world where everyone has goatees. And then all the mirrors shatters and they come back into the regular world. And then Nancy gets pulled and starts fighting with Freddy. Freddy stabs her in the gut, the hero spot.
Right, my hero spot.
Yeah, and then she goes to kill someone else, or he goes to kill someone else, and Nancy jumps up behind him and is like, "No, fuck you!" and stabs him in his own hero spot with his own blades. And they start tussling until the good doctor has escaped out of his grave and buries the bones, or consecrates the ground with holy water, and says ashes to ashes, dust to dust, which I guess works as your final rites. Again, I was an altar boy, so that kind of that's what you say when you get your ashes on Ash Wednesday. Or it's not exactly. It's remember you were ash, and to ash you will return. Ash to ashes, dust to dust. I guess works.
They needed
sort
something.
Of. Yeah, it's people recognize it, but yeah. But to be fair, anyone is capable of blessing something. You don't need a priest in the Catholic dogma. Anyone is capable of blessing something.
No, so why do they have to go out of their way to get holy water?
Well, I mean, you need holy water as the vessel for the blessing.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is he didn't need a priest to do it.
Okay.
He could do it by himself. The real blessing was in his heart the whole time.
Wow.
The real blessing was the friends we made along the way.
Wow. The friends that died.
Yep. So, wow, we've spent a long time recapping this. Well, it's mostly because I had no idea what Kristen's name was. And you keep giggling.
I keep making funnies. That's my job.
That's why I have a co-host on these, because I always do the first one by myself, and it's the most boring one. I like having a co-host.
Aww. I like you too, buddy.
I didn't say you. But yeah, so that's what causes Freddy to get whisked away into the afterlife in a really cool light show, including the crucifix being put on the skull, translating into a cross of light coming out of his forehead, and then he spins around and blows up.
It's symbolic.
Yeah, symbology. It's a real word. It's the study of symbols.
The more you know.
That's the hill that I will die on. Symbology is a real word. A lot of people saw, what was it, Boondock Saints. And there's a goof about what's the symbology, and Willem Dafoe's like, the symbolism, which is correct. He corrected his word usage, but a lot of people took that to mean that symbology is not a real word, and it is. I don't know why I care so much about this, but you learned something today, kids. If you're still listening to this, which I don't know why you are.
Now, hey, you know what? They come here for the educational experience.
That's true. They like the nightmare. Anyway, that's how it wraps up. The doctor's at Nancy's funeral, and that's where he finds out that the nurse was a ghost all along, or not the nurse, the nun was a ghost all along, and Freddy's mother herself. Doo-doo-doo! And then also, for whatever reason, he has Kristen's papier-mâché house at the end of it.
I guess Nancy brought it to.
Yeah, Nancy brought it to the Institute.
Yeah,
but instead of giving it to Kristen, or giving it back to Kristen, he takes it, and you see a light turn on, and that's supposed to signify that Freddy's not done yet.
Still got more unfinished business.
Yeah. So that was the movie. Let's talk about some of the boring stuff.
Hey, that's really interesting stuff that you've written right there.
It's true. So this movie was released on February 27th, 1987. I was 1 year and 10 months old.
I think my parents were married at that time.
Yeah. It was released by New Line Cinema about 1.5 years after the first movie was released. Or I'm sorry, the previous installment, Part 2. The runtime is 96 minutes, which means it's 11 minutes longer than Part 2, and this one was written by Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner, Frank Darabont, and Chuck Russell. Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner, if I remember correctly, are the ones that have the writing credit because they wrote the initial script, and then the other two were hired for punch-up and edits here and there. This was produced for the third time in a row by Robert Shea. Yeah. I don't remember how many more movies he's with us, but he's produced the first 3, so good on him. And directed by Chuck Russell. It was filmed in L.A., the perfect surrogate for Ohio.
Of course.
Specifically, the psychiatric hospital was the UCLA Westwood in Los Angeles. So it was part of the school. The budget was $4.5 million, which is about 1.5 more than the previous movie, and grossed $44.7 million, which is a good 15 more than the last movie.
Wow.
Yeah. I see you have something up on your phone. Did you want to?
Oh, well, I mean, we could talk about this later, but I guess...
yeah. No, yes. I'm going through the credits, so go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, so something funny. So when we watched this the other day, and, we were looking at some of the credits. Normally, for a movie like this, I mean, why stick around for the credits? I usually just do Marvel movies and, usually CG-heavy movies to see how many companies work on movies like that. But something I've noticed is that right after the actors, they had these grips from hell, key grip dudes. So we have key grip J. Patrick Bob Daly, best boy grip Tom Bob West, dolly grip Kent H. Bob Jorson, grips Eric Bob Whitehead, and Ismail Bob Arajo.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was funny that
they're all Bobs.
They're all Bobs. I'm wondering if on set nobody bothered to learn their names, and they're just like, Bob, come down.
Could be it. Whenever I see like a nickname on like a credit, cast or crew listing, I always wonder, like, was that something that was a joke on set, or is that something that is like a real nickname of theirs, But I did enjoy that all the grips were named Bob. I wonder maybe they're just like a specific team of grips, like the grips from hell.
Yeah.
And you hire the grips from hell, and you just all call them Bob.
Bob.
I don't know why I said it that
Bob.
weird.
Hey, Bob.
Bob.
Bob's the word.
So let's talk about production.
Ooh.
So Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was a bit of a failure critically, but still did a good job financially. Like when I was writing this up, it still made a decent profit.
You figure horror movies, they get people to come out.
Yeah.
Like it's an event.
Yeah. But critically, failure. And really the only way that New Line felt that they could get to the third installment was to get Craven back on board, because Wes Craven, he created the first one.
Right.
Wanted it to be just one. And so he didn't come back for the sequel.
Right.
They were like, but Craven, come on. We want you. So he was like, all right, fine, but only if part 3 gets to be the end, and that's evident with the death of Nancy and the burial of Freddy's remains.
Kind of tied everything together.
And had this been just 3 movies, like I'd be like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. His first idea was to have Freddy invade the real world while a Nightmare sequel was being filmed. Now, fans, so not you,
Okay.
fans in the know will recognize this as the plot for a later sequel, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the last one to come out before Freddy vs. Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, that was shot down because New Line didn't want something to be a plot that was so meta.
Okay.
Another early idea focused on a phenomenon of young people making pilgrimages to the same location with the express intent of committing suicide. Later, it would be revealed that a common link between them all would be that the kids were haunted by Freddy in their dreams. Now, some elements of this made it into the final film, but as suicide was such a taboo at the time, that idea too was scrapped.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, the whole replacing suicide with mental illness and the pilgrimages with the mental institution, that's kind of what the story evolved into. There was a bunch of minor character changes from the final script to the actual shooting script, mostly just names and ages and stuff like that. So feel free to look that stuff up on like Wikipedia if you want, but I'm not going to get into it because a lot of it was like really insignificant changes. Like this kid made the puppets instead of that kid.
Yeah, you don't really care about that.
Yeah, exactly. But a couple big things. Instead of the Elm Street house appearing in the dreams, it was originally supposed to be the farmhouse that Freddy grew up in. And also that Sheriff Thompson, or I wrote Lieutenant Thompson. Maybe he's only a lieutenant. Maybe he's not a sheriff. Anyway, Thompson in the original the original script knew from the start that Freddy was real and had been obsessed with finding and burning down that very farmhouse. Mama Krueger's backstory wasn't in the script, and both Joey and Kincaid actually die. Like usual, the script was a lot more graphic than what ultimately ended up in the film, including Freddy being less chatty because he's kind of a jokester.
Yeah,
he's starting to evolve into that jokester, trickster kind of persona.
We got to see where like the Rick and Morty parody of
yes,
well, I got your net. You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
Yeah, literally. Like yeah, this is, if I remember correctly, this is the movie that really started that. But oddly enough, in the original script, he was a lot more vulgar. So he didn't talk as much, but when he did, it was even worse. There is a novelization by Jeffrey Cooper that was based on this original script, rather than the rewrites that ultimately made it into the shooting script. So if you are interested in reading how that is, you can find that novelization. I think it's called Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, and 3. The Nightmare Continues or something like that. But I mean, just look up Jeffrey Cooper. I'm sure you can find the Nightmare on Elm Street novelization through the author's name. The junkyard sequence was designed by the art director, Mark Strawn, and it was so popular that it appeared, or that they brought it back for the fourth film. And like I said, it was a damn good sequence, especially with the skeleton. Going back to the theme song, Dream Warriors was written by Dawkins and was such a success as a single that New Line continued to use heavy metal in the subsequent sequels. So, because Dream Warriors was so big, they were like, "Oh, that's what the kids want. They want the heavy metal."
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. That's kind of what they did for a lot of horror movies.
Yeah. Oh, especially once like the 2000s hit, and it's all new metal. Boo.
I remember Halloween. God. Blame Ann for that. Like that she introduced me to that version.
For some reason, in the VHS release, Dawkins' "Into the Fire," the song that Kristen is listening to while she's making the papier-mâché house.
Yeah.
Into the fire! For some reason, that song was replaced by an instrumental version of Joe Lamont's "Quiet Cool," which I've listened to, and it is not good. I mean, it's fine, but "Into the Fire" works so much better. And I couldn't find any reasoning as to why the song was switched. But VHS and beyond copies of the movie have Into the Fire reinserted. Because of the drug references, the movie was banned in Queensland, Australia, until the mid to late 90s.
Damn, all right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess the heroin. And...
Yeah, specifically the Taryn's death scene.
Oh.
Yeah. In the U.S., it ranked number 1 its opening weekend, grossing $8.9 million. And it was the highest grossing film for New Line and the 24th highest overall grossing film for the year. It is the 3rd highest grossing film in the series, I assume adjusted for inflation, after Freddy vs. Jason and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
Oh.
Yeah. So, then let's talk about some random facts.
Ooh. Yeah, these are the facts that you can't find on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Yeah, these are the facts that I compile. So the cold open lasts 9 minutes and 24 seconds. That's to the wrist slitting scene. The location is where the bulk of the story takes place is the Weston Hills the Weston Hills Asylum, later renamed to the Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital. That's what it is in Freddy vs. Jason.
Right.
Timeline. We are now in. I believe this is the first movie to take place in the year that it's released, 1987. The kill count in this movie 16. Or I'm sorry. 6 people die in this movie. I messed up my typing. I added instead of replaced. 6 people die in this movie, which means for the series so far, Freddy Krueger has killed 21 people. But 22 people have died so far because one guy in part 2 gets trampled by a mob.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, Ken.
What's up?
What was your favorite death in the movie? Not Jennifer.
Honestly, like, there's not really a death that sticks out to me. The potential death I would have chosen would have been the worm thing. But she doesn't actually die. Like, if she had died, that would have been the coolest because of the effects. But I'd say, if I had to choose, I'd say the skeleton fight. Because that whole fight sequence is pretty cool.
Where the sheriff dies? Yeah,
but even then, like, it's a lame death because it's just like, oh, he got impaled.
On a Cadillac. Finn. For me, it was Philip, the puppet guy.
Okay.
Because it was a cool, to me, it was a cool visual of his, like, veins being used as puppet strings, and it's one of the ones that sticks out to me the most personally because it grosses me out the most too. Because those prosthetics on him are very realistic, and also I don't like veins.
Yeah,
I feel like veins should stay inside the body.
Yeah. No, keep that stuff on the inside. Original container.
Yeah, come on, kids. Mint condition. What would you say the lamest kill was for you?
The lamest kill... Why don't you go first on that one? Because I see what your answer is right here.
I have Will, the nerd, because it's just... There was no real flair to it. He was just like, stab.
I'll agree with that, because there wasn't anything specific. Like, you had that chair, but he didn't die by that chair.
If he had been killed by the chair, that would have been such a cooler scene, because, like, it's the thing that he dreads the most, being put back in the chair.
Right.
So that if I were the sadistic son of a bitch that Freddy Krueger is, I would have been like, here, stab to immobilize, and then slam. You're stuck in the chair, and the chair does something horrific to him.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a couple saws on it. It probably could do something.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay. Killing spree. Now, granted, only 6 people die in this movie. Killing spree is not that long. Although they managed to stretch it out because it's like a 4-person killing spree. It lasts from when Taryn gets killed with the drug overdose, which, by the way, is probably my vote for my second tier vote for coolest kill, just because it's such an evocative kill.
Yeah.
It has, much like how you said, like the worm one looked cool.
Yeah.
Like it had such a distinct look to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one, like the drugs and the
her
fact
veins were like gulping for
Yeah.
it.
That's a Freddy kill.
Yeah.
You know.
Gets personal.
Yeah, exactly. Which is probably why Will is such a letdown. But yeah, so it goes from her death at 1 hour 14 minutes and 45 seconds, all the way till when Nancy dies, which is a full 15 minutes and 45 seconds later. So the killing spree lasts almost 16 minutes, which I guess that's a decent killing spree.
Yeah.
The killing sprees usually last about 20 minutes, so boom. Or at least like Jason's did. So who survived? I mentioned it earlier, but it's Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey. They made it out. You could lump the doctor in with that too, but since he
was never in any danger.
Well, he got buried alive, but
any dream danger.
But he was not in the dream, and he's not one of the teens. That'd be like saying that the Sheriff Thompson survived for the first movie, which he did, but
we don't care about him.
No. Evolution of Freddy. He can possess his own bones. That's the big thing that he can do now. Weapons used beyond his glove, a TV, a drug. Yeah, I have heroin written down, but as we mentioned, we don't actually know that it's heroin. It doesn't look like heroin. It's blue.
They probably couldn't reference it for like.
Yeah. Well, that and also like Freddy can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. I do what I want.
And a car tail fin. Did the victims deserve to die? I have this list of fornicators, assholes, drug users, and innocents.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that Taryn, she's clean now, but you could argue that she's a drug user. And Sheriff Thompson, he definitely is an alcohol abuser.
Yep.
But everyone else, like across the board, pretty much innocents.
Yeah.
Like they're just troubled teens.
I'd say it doesn't really care.
Yeah, Freddy doesn't follow the same MO that Jason did.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to take that out, but it is still fun to like kind of like be like, well, we're these terrible people.
Yep.
Because every once in a while they do have terrible people in the situations. But yeah, for the most part, Freddy does kind of attack the innocents, which makes sense. He was a child killer, child murderer, as they call him in the movies.
Boom.
Because they weren't able, or they didn't want to say child molester.
What's worse than a murderer? Boom.
A child.
No.
It's one of my favorite lines. How is Freddy defeated? Holy water and a crucifix.
Holy water.
You've been gone too long. Yeah, Jesus saves the day.
Aww. Thanks, Jesus.
And then how does Freddy come back? I mentioned it earlier, but a light flicks on in the paper mache house. I don't think I spelled mache right there, but I don't care.
It looks like machete.
It's French.
Machete kills.
But yeah, so yeah, that's a Nightmare on Elm Street
Friday.
Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors.
You got anything else to say, Ken?
I'm glad this was the first one.
Yeah?
That I enjoyed that I saw.
I have all of the others if you want to borrow it.
I mean, I
have the first one on Laserdisc if you want to borrow it.
Well, I got that for you.
I know.
I think maybe I should check out the first one, but I'm actually more interested in checking out the new Nightmare. Maybe
that's one of them.
That's unique. It sounds unique. Like it sounds like maybe the second one didn't do too well, and the first one, while it is a classic, I may like the meta-ness a bit more. Especially like Jason X, like I love that because it was so campy.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm excited. I'm excited. I'll check these out. Horror movies aren't really my forte, but I had this spree where like I watched a lot of trailers and behind the scenes for a lot of the classic horror ones, like Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just was like, oh man, how did this get made? And like what's the lore behind it? So. I did, the Halloween ones and Friday ones, like, so I'm interested, but, In my opinion, nothing beats a good old fashioned trick or treat movie.
Yeah, like the movie Trick or Treat.
That's the one I'm that's the one I'm thinking of right there. That I like that as a Halloween
It's a good
movie.
one.
I really like that one. Nice short stories, good times.
A portmanteau. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode of A Nightmare on Geek Out Street. I will see you next month for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. I don't even remember what it's called. It's not The Dream Child. That's later.
You didn't do your research.
Nope. I believe I made it very clear that I did not do my research. But I'll see you for Part 4 next month. Sweet dreams are made of these.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.